Everyone deserves a second chance, but not everyone can change. Today on rLounge, a brother has to relieve the past and confront his little inner child. Stepbrother bullied me all my childhood. 15 years later, begs me for help because his life is falling apart. I am Devin, a 30 male, an engineer. I am married to one of the most beautiful women in the world. I'm also an expectant father. Everything seems to be going well in my life. Good job, good wife, good life. It was until my not-so-good stepbrother came into my life. Well, he emerged into my life, asking for help from me. Oh wow, I still cannot believe that he is back. I don't know if it's universal for people to never get along with their step-siblings, but that is the case for me and my brother. We have never shared a good relationship, and I don't blame it on the circumstances, I blame it on his terrible character. So many things have gone down between us for years. I need to talk about everything that we have been through. I feel like now is the time to finally talk about it. My stepbrother, Freddie, 37 male, is his middle name. Let's leave it at that. He's tall and strong. Freddie's father married my mother when I was 12. Although Freddie's father was not my ideal parent, he made my mother very happy. He was more on the strict side and did not encourage mistakes. My father passed away when I was 6 from a terrible boat accident. I was an only child and my mom took perfect care of me until her death. Freddie's father and Freddie moved into our home in Texas. Freddie was 19 years old then and had barely passed high school. Freddie hated the change of environment. They were used to Atlanta and its lifestyle. Texas was not what he wanted, but he could not leave his father, especially since he depended heavily on him. Freddie and I shared a room, and boy, he was against it. He hated that a little kid was sleeping with him. He probably thought he would have his room. He protested against it to his father and my mom, but nothing could be done. He could either sleep in the living room or with a friend. Joke's on him, he didn't have any around that proximity at that point, so he was stuck with me. I bet he wanted to do some older boy things, talk to his girlfriend or do whatever, but he hated it, and I did not like it one bit. In order to chase me out of the room, he would speak in loud tones, play loud rock music at night, and invite his new gangster friends into the room. I barely had time for myself in my room under my roof. Freddie was also a dirty, messy man. He would leave dirty dishes under the bed, on the table. It felt like living in a pigsty. I couldn't express myself properly to my mother about his behavior because I didn't want to cause a rift between her and her new husband, my stepfather. I let sleeping dogs lie and continued to accommodate his ridiculous behavior. My mother noticed his clumsy behavior and tried to enforce cleanliness, but he was beyond anyone's control. One day, I requested him to lower his voice while talking, and he threw a pack of gum in my face. That was the first time he was physical. He was a horrible person. Long story short, call me Cinderella. Well, the male version after my mom died. I was all alone. Freddie's father fell into a coma battling a disease. Freddie officially became my guardian. He was older than me by 7 years and was the only person to take care of me. Freddie intensified his habits and became more of a bully after my mother's death, making fun of my looks, trying to be evil. He once lied to his friends that I had called them the N-word. All of them tried to give me a beating because they thought I was a racist. He started a rumor that I wet the bed and often slept with a nightlight on because of my fear of monsters. It's like he made a pact to ruin my life. I used to save lunch money given to me by my mother. I kept the money in a big wooden box my father gave me before he died. One day, I got home from school, and you would not believe it. Freddie had broken the wooden saver and had taken all the money. There was over $200 in there. I demanded my money from him, and all he did was scowl at me. This bully pulled out the cash and waved it in my face. He claimed it was for the upkeep of the house, but I knew he wanted to spend the money on alcohol and frivolous things. I had nothing to do. It's not like I could physically harm him. I was a skinny little boy and he was a man with muscles and everything else. I would never win. Miserable is the word to describe my childhood. Freddie's father eventually passed away and I was left with Freddie, who was now a college dropout. Freddie let his rather vivacious and dangerous best friend Charlie move in with us. Charlie was nothing less than Freddie. He was just as infuriating as Freddie. Freddie rented our home for his dirty habits. One would think that Freddie would want to do something worthwhile with his life. No. After dropping out of college, he spent his days smoking vape, knocking the boots with his girlfriend, engaging in joyrides, and doing stupid things. Normally, I wouldn't mind, but it was affecting me too. He would throw loud parties at home, making it impossible for me to study or sleep. My room was now taken away from me. His no-good friends had used my room as a vaping room and did not care enough for me. One night I woke up and saw them beating on a poor boy. It was disheartening how they hurled punches in his face. I think he owed them some money and refused to pay, so they taught him a lesson. I couldn't stay in my house anymore. Freddie saw me pack my bags and did nothing to stop me. He chuckled in my face and said, "We would meet in another life." I doubt it. I didn't want to see Freddie anymore or to be close to him, ever. With tears, I moved out with nowhere to go. My aunt lived in Paris, and there was no way I would find myself in France. There was no resource to do so. I had tried to move into my friend's place, but he had kicked me out, stating that he didn't want trouble. Years later, I found out that Freddie and his dangerous lapdogs had threatened to deal with my friend if he accommodated me. There was no other place for me. I feared that I would put my friends in danger. I moved upstate to move away from my Freddie's influence. Lonely and dejected, I started living in someone's garage. I could never forget Biggie, male 50, in my life. Biggie is his nickname because he was large and strong and he had a liking to Biggie's songs. He had found me sleeping in his backyard and threatened me with a bat, but I told him I was not a threat. Biggie was nice enough and knew exactly what I was, a kid who had been through a lot. Biggie lived there with a wife and 2 daughters, aged 5 and 7. Biggie let me stay there even though he knew nothing much about me. I could not go to college like I had planned because I had no funds. My life was dedicated to working. I was 17 and started working multiple jobs, mowing Biggie's lawn and cleaning his cars. He also had put in a good word for me to his friends, and I started working for them. I was able to acquire a little cash to sustain myself. Things moved far for Biggie, and he was moving to Chicago. I thought about returning to my house to see if things would have been better. It was worse. Freddie had started dealing drugs in the house, manufacturing and distributing. Freddie told me that if I was willing to move in, I should participate in the business. Business with selling drugs? No way. My only option was to stay back in Biggie's backyard while he moved out, hoping the next person would be as understanding as him and let me stay with him. Things paid for me. Biggie was able to get me a sum of money to get into community college to learn engineering. Although it was not my ideal place to learn, but I was grateful. I would have studied law and been winning legal cases. I had mixed school affairs with work. Every free time I had, I would work. My hard work was noticed, and I got more gigs. I worked 4 jobs, being a bartender at a bar, cleaning cars and pools, and I started tutoring little kids. I needed it to work for me. I needed the good life that I had once imagined for myself. I met my wife in community college and had everything worked out for me after that. But it was not easy. Things would have been better if Freddie had not done something to jeopardize my future. Some things would have worked out. Okay, back to the present. There I was, coming back from a long night in the office, and who did I see? My no-good stepbrother. He had not changed over the years. He still had his father's brown doe eyes, but they were bloodshot and looked lifeless. His tattoos got dense, and he had lost some weight. He smelled like cheap booze and weed. He called my name, and we stared at each other with no words to say. I had nothing to say. He sniffed and mentioned that the years had been kind to me. I told him, well, someone else had to be nice to me. He cut right to the chase and said, "Listen, little brother, I need your help." Help? I watched him babble about his dangerous lifestyle throughout the years. The drug business he had going on had failed. His partner had sniffed all the merchandise meant for the big boss, and the big boss came for revenge. He had to sell the house and a couple of his father's properties to pay his debts. He also mentioned that his partner was taken by the mafia for betrayal. Freddie cried that he was scared for his life. And his little girl, my niece, who was named after my mother, was in foster care. All these he had said with a sober face, but I didn't believe him, especially naming his daughter after my mother because she was the only one who cared for him. I told him to never look for me again. He pleaded even as I stepped into my house, shutting him out. Hey, you can't blame me. This man had done a lot of things to me. Freddie slept in front of my house that night, and when my wife came, he introduced himself to her. Luckily for him, my wife is a softie and had tried to intercede on his behalf. She was aware of all his problems and his mistreatment, but she knew the family was above everything. I didn't believe that. The family was not always the best kind of company, especially someone like Freddie, who had ruined my life. She was able to convince me to give him some money, so I gave him some cash to go and eat something or buy clothes. My heart was unsettled and worried about what he could do to hurt my family. Who knows if this was just a front? I truly hoped that he wouldn't be back. He had called for money 2 days after, and I ignored him. I don't know how he got a hold of my phone number. A bar had called me to get my drunk brother from the bar. I drove to the rundown bar, And there was Freddie, drugged up and beaten up badly. He had caused trouble in the bar, and some bikers gave him a beating. It served him right. Freddie did not have anywhere to go. I couldn't leave him in the bar for the bikers to finish their work on him, even though he darn right deserves it. It looked horrible. I felt awful for him, but still didn't want to make a decision I would be in trouble for. I think by ultimately going to the bar, you put you and your family in danger. You shouldn't have entertained this guy. As you said, you aren't sure what he's capable of. You aren't that little boy anymore, and you can't allow yourself to be bullied by this lowlife. Take your power back. He doesn't deserve your help. He never helped you. He's not your responsibility. Update 1. Sorry guys, I think I owe you an apology for what happened. I've not been able to update you for a month. Work has been taking a lot of my time. Despite my problems, I'm still trying to get the bag. Regarding Freddie, the poor stupid nuthead had been diagnosed with alcohol poisoning. He had been stuck in the hospital ward for weeks, unconscious. I didn't go to see him for weeks until my wife asked that we see him to check on his progress. I did. He looked so horrible. He had cried for his daughter, which made me realize his talk about her was true, but I wanted to see her for myself. My stepniece was living in a group home with 5 other kids. The housing situation was not the best. It seemed like they were stacked up there. The little girl spoke about how she wanted to see her daddy, her superhero father. Huh? Was her father the same person I knew? Freddie was discharged from the hospital a week ago, and he had pleaded that I take him into his house because he still needed to care for himself. My wife was quick to say yes, but I wasn't that easy to forget. Freddie had still not apologized for what he had done to me during my childhood years. He thought that he could swing past that phase and enjoy my kindness. No way. I refused to let him stay in my house and gave him the number of an affordable motel he could move into. Frankly, I didn't want to have anything to do with him. He was a sleazeball that had nothing to do with his life. I didn't need that kind of energy in my life. Remorse finally hit him. Can you believe that Freddie arrives at my office to have a civil conversation? His civilness soon faded as we went into a screaming match about lives. He claimed that he was always jealous of me. Jealous? Of a little boy? It annoyed me that he had justifications for his behavior, which were not worth it. I was ready to get security out to take him out, but the crocodile tears had started. He had cried that he only needed his daughter. He needed to see her before she was taken completely into the system. Guys, I'm a sucker for tears. I can't stand it if anyone cries, and I have never seen this man cry like a baby. What do? I can't give him shelter in my house. He doesn't deserve that. Plus, he was a dangerous person. What if he slips back into his habits and turns my house into a whorehouse or a drug manufacturing company? I have a baby coming soon. I won't take that chance, but I am conflicted. I'm really confused about what I can do to him. Honestly, I need your help and advice. Honestly, don't bring him in. And it's really not your responsibility to try to help or fix this guy. You can't guarantee that he's telling the truth. He seems very unhinged. And is a guy who's getting drunk to the point of alcohol poisoning really able to take care of a child? If you give this guy an inch, he could take a mile and then you may end up in hot water. Be cautious. He could end up dragging you down. Update 2. Oh, people. After much deliberation, I decided to do what my heart wanted. I had made him a cleaner in my former workplace. I spoke to the facilities manager of the company, who was a good friend of mine. I didn't tell him of Freddie's bad criminal background, but I knew if I did, Freddie wouldn't get a job. And no, I didn't give him shelter in my house. This way, Freddie can actually grow and be responsible for himself the right way. For the first week, he came into work early, doing good things, being the docile person I never thought he could be. He'd even quit drinking and smoking, intent on staying clean. That is what I thought. He switched up. Freddie attempted to harass a woman in the office. He asked her for her phone number, and she refused, so he cornered her and called her the B word. Additionally, he was making her life miserable, catcalling her. No one knew until she made a complaint to HR about the abuses. Freddie misused the opportunity I gave to him. I decided to confront him. I drove to the motel he was at. Can you believe I saw Freddie give this man with scary tattoos and piercings some money? Why? I was not bold enough to step out to confront him and the dangerous-looking man, but rather, I waited for the guy to go. I was so pissed when I saw him smoking. I thought he was supposed to be sober, especially since he has plans to get his daughter from foster care. What in the hell was going on? I confronted him and asked him why he would do something like that. He told me that he could do whatever he wanted. The old Freddie was displaying himself. I told him he should never call or show up at my house. That switched in his mind, and he reacted like I knew he would. Freddie sent a punch to my face, and it broke my nose. He didn't stop there. He struck me in the leg. I could never imagine he would hit me again or lay his hands on me. I'm more upset with myself that I let it happen, and I didn't hit him back. Luckily, the police officers were there and took him into custody. I'm still at home, reeling from the disappointment. This man had not changed. Worse, I had let him into my home, into my house. The officers may let him out based on whoever pays the bill, but honestly, I cannot risk that. I write this with fear, thinking of what could happen and why I was so foolish to let him in. It was not the best thing to do. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Update 3. Hello guys, I know it has been 2 months, but I'm a father. Yes, a father to a beautiful baby boy. Fatherhood has been so surreal. Even though I have been changing diapers, I've been enjoying his smiles, giggles. God, I love it. Oh, concerning Freddie, you won't believe what the nutcase did. One of his buddies paid his bail, and he was let out of jail. I had put a restraining order against him. He was not to be in proximity to me or my wife. He had located the location of his child and was able to abduct her. He had cooked up a plan with his buddies from the hood, and they took the girl. I found out when the police came to question his whereabouts. They wanted to know if I would be able to hide a criminal. No way. No, absolutely way. The police officers were very convinced that I had nothing to do with it, but gave me a number. Freddie reached out to me. First a phone call, which I cut. Then, he sent a long message. He apologized profusely for everything and was willing to change if I was able to hide him and his daughter. I only want my niece safe because she deserves someone nice and loving to grow up with. Sometimes family is not the best. I knew if I got involved with him in the taking of his daughter, he would hurt me. I was not ready for that. I was not ready to put myself in such help. So I let the police take care of it. I let him do anything he wanted. That was the last thing I heard of him. I ignored his message and let him go. I only wonder how his child is doing with the horror he is putting her through. Even though I feel bad for her, I choose my peace and my family, which is most important. Someday, I know, I would find out that he was taken in by the police or was killed in a gang battle. Or maybe he would have overdosed on drugs. I would feel a bit guilty, but at least I know I did a little to help him. His destiny is in his own hands. Thank you so much, guys, for the messages and everything. It means a lot. Yeah, your responsibility is to your family now. You're a father, and you have to do what's right for them. Like you said, leave it in the hands of the police. Stay in your lane, OP, and you'll be fine. Don't try to be a hero. What would you have done? Thank you for following along today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to share regarding today's content, we want to hear it. Bye for now.